Today I want to profile another very relevant case that we've all been following. I want to do the Nancy Gutherie case. For those of you that aren't necessarily aware or haven't been keeping up with it, here's just a brief overview, and I do have notes in front of me that I will be referencing as I go through this, but just to lay the foundation of where the investigation is at and what I'm trying to uncover and answer throughout this, I'm going to read through the notes. So yes, this is a very, very strange case, particularly because for the last 6 to 7 months, investigators still have a masked, armed suspect on camera, confirmed evidence of an actual abduction of Nancy Gutherie, who's an 84-year-old mother, and ransom communications containing apparently non-public information. So information that was never disclosed to the public. These ransom notes actually contain information. And then yet there's still no publicly identified suspect and no recovery of Nancy herself. What we do know, what is established evidence-wise, is that Nancy returned home the night of January 31st. Something happened in the early morning hours between January 31st and February 1st. A masked, gloved person was captured manipulating surveillance equipment. That individual appeared to have a holstered firearm. Her ring camera was disconnected at 1:47 in the morning on February 1st. The person and or movement was detected on that same camera around 2:12. And then her pacemaker detection or monitoring system was disconnected at 2:28 a.m. So that leaves like a 40-something odd minute window there where police still have no evidence or information as to what happened to her. They do know that Nancy's blood was recovered from the property. I believe it was on the front porch or close to the front door. Nancy had not simply packed up and voluntarily left. All of her belongings were still in the home. Law enforcement considers her to have been abducted. Ransom communications were subsequently received on the 2nd, and then I believe again a few days later on the 6th. At least some purported ransom communications in the broader case were fraudulent and hoaxes, so people had been writing in and giving tips to officers that were just completely fake. So authorities recently released 2 communications they consider significant enough to ask the public for help in analyzing. Nancy's remains are missing, and there is no publicly identified perpetrator that has been charged as of yet. So I think it's important that we answer a few different questions here. So who is the masked person? How did the offender choose Nancy? Like, why her? You know, we know her daughter, Savannah, is a public figure. She is a reporter. So I don't know if that plays a role into it or not. How much did the offender know about Nancy's routine? You know, the reason why her family reported her missing is because she missed church that Sunday on the 1st. And that's what led them to go to her home to discover that she was just missing. Are the 2 ransom notes genuinely from the abductor? Are they the same person? Are they different people? How are they tied to the case as a whole? If the February 2nd writer was genuine, so that was the first ransom note, if it was genuine, then how did they know the crime scene details? Because this was a part of some of the information that hadn't been publicly exposed yet, but yet they identified some of that information. What happened during the approximate 30-minute window between the camera tampering and Nancy's pacemaker connection being disconnected? Where is the vehicle evidence? You know, there should be evidence, and I don't know if some of this information is being withheld by authorities because they don't want to expose too much. But you would think that neighbors or CCTV or just, cameras would have captured something by way of vehicles coming and going. What became of the DNA evidence? So a glove found roughly 2 miles away initially attracted major attention because it appeared to have been worn by the masked person, but then investigators pursued DNA testing and later reported that DNA associated with the glove was traced to a local restaurant owner who was not actually tied to this case. If the second ransom note is genuine, where exactly does buried in nature mean? Because they reference that Nancy had reportedly died by way of like her heart condition and that she was disposed in nature, but in nature can mean so many different things. What does that actually mean? So I'm going to try to answer some of these questions. Let's see, because I want to make sure that I answer as much as I can without getting some of this information. I want to be as accurate as possible. Okay, so yeah, the first important communication was reported on February 2nd, very shortly after Nancy's disappearance. It demanded approximately $4 million in Bitcoin and reportedly contained details potentially indicating knowledge of the crime. Then comes the secondary information 4 days later on February 6th, where the writer claimed Nancy had died from an apparent heart-related problem and claimed she had been buried somewhere in nature. Authorities have not publicly established that Nancy is dead, so we can't treat that as fact as of right now. That gives you an interesting distinction for a reading. Don't ask. Yeah, we need to be asking, what is the relationship between the author of this communication and Nancy's abduction? I first want to get into why Nancy? Why her? Why was she the target? Was it circumstantial that she was the target, or was she specifically chosen? Let's see here. For some reason, Tea Leaf is calling out to me. This could pick up on signs, synchronicities, Nancy herself, or the abductor, or the overarching reasons why she was chosen. So spirit, angels, ancestors, give us signs and synchronicities around why Nancy? Why her? Was it circumstantial or was it purposeful? And do you have any indicators on the abductor themselves? Target, a goal-oriented person. No, she was targeted. There's no doubt about it. She was chosen for a specific reason. Why? I only want the ones that fall out. Months of the year, December. She was chosen in December. Definitely premeditated. Why Nancy? Career. This could be Savannah's career because she's in the limelight. People know that, she makes decent money, or somehow news and reporting was important to get the word out. What did Nancy do earlier in life? She worked at the University of Arizona for roughly 16 years. From 1990 until 2007, she entered the workforce after her husband, Charles, died suddenly in '88. She was 16 at the time. Before that, Nancy had primarily been a stay-at-home mother raising their 3 children. Her career was largely in public relations, university advancement, and health-related community programs. She was a spokeswoman for the University Medical Center, associate to the vice president of the University Advancement, coordinator of the Center Stage program, which arranged musical performances at the hospital for patients, staff, and visitors. Program director for Med Camp, a program that introduced Arizona high school students to careers in medicine. And she was also elected president of the Southern Arizona chapter of the Public Relations Society of America in 2000, suggesting she was fairly established in Tucson's PR community. Nancy reportedly returned to work specifically to help put her children through college. So, she was in PR, communications, university advancement, including medical and community programming. Not journalism or broadcasting like Savannah. Okay. Give us more signs and synchronicities on why her. Broken bridge, unsuccessful outcome to a problem, horseshoe, good luck. Horses could be significant to either Nancy or to the abductor. Gambling even. Obviously it was a gamble to target her. More on why her, why Nancy, or signs and synchronicities on the abductor. Woman, dealings a relationship with a woman. More on this woman. Was it somebody? Was Nancy targeted by, she could be targeted by another woman that she had some sort of previous relationship with, possibly tied to her career. And then, the abductors are just the ones that carried it out. Flag, don't be tempted to lower your standards. I don't know, somehow flags are significant. Could be the university flag even. Or possibly even this woman has been flagged in the system already, whether at the university or with authorities, flagged for something in the past. I'm not saying that they would have a record. I'm just saying that potentially they had been flagged in the past for something random. How long before January 31st was Nancy on this person's radar? December. She had been a target since December. Was Nancy targeted because of Savannah? I don't believe so. I'm not getting that feeling. Although, because Nancy was tied to PR and Savannah is tied to media, the two kind of intermingle in some sort of way. So even though I don't think she was a target by way of Savannah, I think I get the sense that like she was a target all on her own, and Savannah provided the media, attention that could be garnered from this. For some reason, the attention was important. Like the media attention, the media frenzy was important to this case or to this abductor. Like it was a good target because of Nancy's background, but then Savannah tied to it was like a cherry on top. Did the perpetrator know Nancy's routine? Let's see. Okay. Did the perpetrator know Nancy's routine? If she was a target, then I would venture to say yes. They knew her comings and goings. I'm getting chills all over. Yeah, they waited. They sought her out. So the question, angels and ancestors, is, did they know Nancy's routine? Were they very much aware of that? Church, family visits, bedtime habits, security system. Yeah. They felt like she was an easy target because of her age and her mobility issues. Even you would think that the mobility issues would be a detractor for her as a target because it makes the abduction that much harder. But for some reason they felt as though that was a good thing, like that benefited them. Possibly because of like a timing thing, time is of the essence. Like this could move fast. Tell us what led up, like what did these people do? I said these people. It's a group of people, it's not just one person. I believe there was a mastermind, and I do believe it was a woman who was the mastermind of this, which is so interesting. You would think it would be a man. Why? I don't know. Tell us what they did leading up to, like, what was their stakeout, basically. What did they do? She was a target since December. They moved fast. We're asking, what did they do? It wants me to move over to a different deck. Leading up to her disappearance, what were they surveilling? What were they watching? Were they tied to a specific community? Is it tied to family? Is it tied to career? Is it tied to, the community at large, like church? That's what I want to know. Some sort of personal relationship. Anything? What was their process for staking out Nancy? Three of Pentacles. They worked together. Well, we already know it was a collaborative effort, but I definitely get that Nancy at least knew the woman, or the woman knew of her. Yes. Knew of Nancy being in a leadership role. Knew this. The person that was in charge of the stakeout was aware of Nancy already and the work that she did. And I do get, like, I'm not so sure they worked together for a long extended period of time. More on leading up to the abduction. How did they know Nancy? Could have been an understudy of Nancy's, or somebody like they saw Nancy in a leadership position and looked up to her. Like saw the influence. That's what I wanted to say. Influence. Could be dealing with a Leo, doesn't have to be, but Leo is definitely leadership, like it's fire energy. It is fixed. Yeah, this person was like fixated on her. Could be dealing with a Leo, doesn't have to be. But saw Nancy as, in this leadership role. I don't know why leadership is such an important aspect here, but it is more. This person would have a big mouth. Not like physical big mouth, but like they stand out for like the things that they've said in the past. I'm talking about the woman here. Anything else? Yeah, this was definitely premeditated and planned. I almost get like, they liked the spotlight, you know, like that was, it wasn't a detractor. It was an attraction factor here. That spotlight would be put on this. So what, was this person like jealous? Anything else? Okay, nothing from, I believe, but I think that answered the question. I believe they worked together in the past when Nancy was in some form of leadership. So this dates back to 2007 is when she retired. So this person knew of Nancy, knew of her work, knew of the attention and possibly the programs that she put in place too. Let's get into the actual person on camera. Is the person on camera primarily responsible for Nancy's abduction? We can't automatically assume yes, but I just get a sense that this was a collaborative effort. It was a group of people. So let's just see. Give us information on the masked armed suspect on camera. Information on this person. Were they the mastermind? Information. Just give us information on the person on camera. Anything? Cards are being so weird today. They don't want this to get out, obviously. Person on camera, please. Moral compass. Having enough trauma to be evil, but actively chooses not to be. Abductor. Or the man on the camera. We want information on the man on the camera. Power, second coming, massive, highly anticipated return, ultimate comeback, restoration of power, taking back your throne. Remember what I said about leadership? There was a thing with leadership and like getting control and power in some sort of way. And why Bitcoin? But anyway, let's talk about the guy on camera. Give us information on this person. Hyperfixations, a state where everything else disappears except the one thing you're building or are interested in. Zoned in. I get like mission, like this person was on a mission. And I don't believe that they were the mastermind. That's the feeling that I'm getting, that they weren't the mastermind. But let's just wait until the cards confirm that. More on this masked armed man. But definitely watching, waiting, peering. Even on TV. You know how smart TVs can be hacked? I know that all too well. You can hear conversations, all sorts of shit. Watching your money, watching their money, finances, wants to siphon your energy and money, wants to steal from you, watching your pockets. Oh yeah, targeted, and she was being watched over. Homophobia, fear, disgust, mistrust, and or hatred of people who are gay, secretly battling their own sexuality. They hate what they can't come to grips within themselves. Is that where the evil stems from? Is that they couldn't come to terms with it could be their own sexuality. And you know how people who are homophobic says a lot more about them and their sexual proclivity versus anything else? More on this masked armed man. I get that this person was the handler, you know? They were just following orders, which is so interesting because tight-lipped in every other way other than ransom notes, why put yourself out there like that? Yesify, over-editing and using heavy filters on photos or videos, sometimes to the point of being unrecognizable. So this person in their actual life, like when they post, they're prone to using filters, over-editing, obviously not wanting to be seen. More on this person. pressure cooker. Stunted dynamic where one or both people are holding in their true frequency to keep the peace. Rapid transformation. Yeah, this person, what did I say about just wanting to, was just following orders? Not that that like makes a difference or makes it right at all, but like something was bubbling underneath the surface within their crew, and this was a way to, in their minds, like correct it and to like get back what why do I feel like get back what's rightfully theirs? They feel like wronged in some sort of way. Wronged, but like why? Long lost friend? Could be a long lost friend. I get not the man, the woman. Like or this group is tied to a long lost friend. Anything else on this person? Man, really not getting a whole lot. Maybe I need to switch decks. Tell us more about this masked, armed man. Arrogant, rash actions, insincere. Well, obviously, rash actions. You could say that. Masked, armed. Epiphany, self-reflection, answered questions, untapped talents. No, this person was just a follower. This person was just a yes man. Like, cutting ties, freedom, standing up, awaken. Maybe it was a way for this person to get out of the group. Like, hey, you do this one last thing and you can get out. Anything? Running, escape, denial, and excuses. They're running away from any sort of epiphany they may have had, or self-reflection. Definitely on the run. Anything else on this masked, armed man? Stagnant, stuck, dead end, and frozen. Yeah, they didn't know what else to do. It felt like they had to. They thought that this would be the end for them. Like, in regards to this group or this situation. I feel like this person just wanted to get out and did this. Can you give us the storyline of this person? Yeah, definitely a collaborative effort. Possibly up to 3 people. A woman, a man, and somebody else. A woman is definitely tied to it. I also get authority. Could be tied to, I don't know, could be somebody in law enforcement. Could be somebody in the government. An attorney, even? Let me be really specific. Did he actually was he the one that actually abducted Nancy? Or was he the decoy? These cards are being so weird today. I get that this person was the decoy. It's what everyone would focus on, which is another reason why the media attention was so important, because it's like now they can focus on this one person when in reality I don't think it was actually them. No, he was paid to be in this role. That Bitcoin was their opportunity for a new beginning. Yes, they were paid. Paid to do exactly what? What were they paid to do? Spirit. Okay, so the magician pulls up. The magician is Gemini energy. It's two-faced. Like I said, decoy. This person was meant, the armed man was meant to be in the spotlight. That was for a reason. And it's also tied to the media. But Gemini energy it's two-faced. It can be, and it's lower vibrational energy, which I can think we're safe to say here that this is lower vibrational energy here. But it's also trickster energy. So they were paid off to be literally to be the face. Like this guy was the one to do it all. I believe they did their job. I don't know if they got paid or not. It seems like they did get paid and then they're on the run. I don't think they have many places to go, but more on what they were paid to do. 7 of Swords, yeah, to be the defense. The decoy, paid to be the face. Like, look, it looks like he's the only one fighting and fending off all the people that want to come after him. But he was paid to be in that position. Okay. He's got a child. Yeah, and judgment's being called on him. He is. trying to run away. He was the one that allowed them to get away. Why is the Hierophant pulling up? I really hope this isn't tied to a church. Dude's definitely on the run right now. If you guys are curious where that person is, he's obviously on the run. Yeah, okay, so the timeline here that's in question is from 1:47, that's when the camera disconnects, to motion being detected at the front door, which was at 2:12. So we want to know, was Nancy conscious when she left the home? Because it'll speak directly to the blood evidence that was found. And basically what specifically happened between 2:12 and 2:28. What specifically happened between 2:12 and 2:28 to Nancy? Portal D. She may have actually passed on site. Hidden network. Success. Warning. Alarm. We're asking what exactly happened to Nancy while she was still in the home before she was taken out of the home. She was inside, possibly hiding. I also get inside job from this, like an insider source. Truth in the reverse. What specifically happened to Nancy? Abuse, neglect. I feel like they were trying to get information from her that she likely did not have. And the abuse and or neglect is like her heart condition, you know? I believe they could have, I don't want to say tortured because I don't get that feeling, but I do get that they scared the living shit out of her to where it affected her heart. They felt like she was withholding something more about what happened inside the home before they took her out. False confession, making a deal. Medical emergency. No, Nancy went into, yeah, it was her heart condition. That episode happened on site. I don't think they believed her. And they could have been using, like they disconnected it because maybe it was beeping or something like that. And they were trying to get information from her, didn't believe her about her heart condition. And then, you know, she potentially went into like pulmonary arrest. I'm not a doctor, obviously, so I don't know but I do get like heart attack or DNA more. Well, we know, yeah, DNA was picked up. That could have been the abuse, you know? Maybe they hid her, trying to get information out of her. Private property. I mean, she did work in medical community and programming. Arizona high school students to careers in medicine. No, she sustained her injury inside the home. Yeah, it was as they were trying to uncover something. They were trying to get some sort of information from her. And she sustained her injury inside. What else happened in those 16 minutes between 2:12 and 2:28? They could have even possibly thought that, you know, she was lying to them about the information. And that's where the abuse and neglect came from. It was like, if you don't fucking tell us what we need to know, you're not going to get the help that you need. Danger, affair, cheating. I don't get like an actual affair or cheating. I get it was like they were cheating in a sense that they caused her abuse only for that to go sideways for them, you know, like they didn't get the information that they were seeking, and then they also, and maybe they were trying to expose an affair too. That could totally be it. Normally I don't take all these, but I'm going to. Burial, final ending regarding money, and she is outside, out in the open. This did have to do with some sort of competition or rival in her life. I don't know who in the past felt as though that she was a competitor of theirs, or that she was somebody to, I don't know. But competition and rival, I've been getting that energy throughout this entire thing, especially when that woman pulled out. Fraud, cybercrime. I mean, they were watching her. They were watching her money, her pockets. Okay, so if we know that Nancy was hurt inside the home. When she, like, tell us, angels and ancestors, I want to know in 2 or 3 lines, so like 15 cards, what happened from the time that they got inside the home and they did whatever to Nancy. Was she alive when they left? And whom else was in the picture, if anyone? Like, was it just that man on camera, or were there other people? I get a sense that there were other people actually on site, and I'm not so sure it's the woman. I think that there was money paid to a group of people to do this on the behalf of this woman. So tell us what happened the rest of that morning after they had gotten inside her home, step by step. 5 of Swords. There was some sort of competition and there was a fight. Look, see how there's 2 women in this card? Typically it's just one person on this card and it's normally a man, but now there's 2 women. So there was a woman that was in competition with her. Possibly, this could have stemmed back for quite some time. It could have gone back to when they actually worked together, and they've sort of like been peering in her world for quite some time. See how like she was followed? Like step by step. Yeah, so they knew her comings and goings. They did, very much so. We want to know exactly step by step what happened. So there was a fight, abuse, for money. Maybe they even tried to rob her just to begin with. Get into bank accounts. Maybe she couldn't remember passwords, you know? She is older. I mean, hell, I can barely remember my own passwords. Yeah, there was a fight over money. And again, 2 women. More. No, I get that she transitioned in the home. I believe when that pacemaker monitoring system was going off, that was right around the time that Nancy transitioned, because the transitional card is here, Temperance. Like that's when she transitioned to the other side. Exactly what happened. So she transitions after this fight over money. This is her like leaving her body. And then these people went off and left. They were like, how are we not gonna be seen? You know? Like how do we cover this up? Leaving the home and not being seen. Yes? Then what? They kind of felt like this was a good thing. Like it didn't matter either way to them, right? Because they had to plan the ransom note plan, you know? Or possibly the ransom note was the backup plan. It was like, if she ends up doing whatever, like if we can't get money from her when she's alive and she ends up passing over, then all we have to do is figure out a way to not be seen, and then we can ask for a ransom note. They knew she had money. No doubt about it. More. What happened? What did these people do afterwards? Well, they were able to get some things. Did they steal? I haven't heard or read anything about them actually taking anything from the home, but potentially they did. They took some, maybe jewelry or something that would be easily turned into money. They did. They knew this person. I'm not saying that like Nancy knew the abductors, but the people, and there were people inside. It wasn't just one. Could have been just 2 people. But they knew each other. I don't know if they were in a relationship, but they definitely worked together, and there was multiple people on site. Nancy plus 2 others, at least. But I do get 2. Possibly once that camera was disconnected is when the other one was let in. Maybe through the back. King of Pentacles. Yeah, there definitely was a man here. Man, I don't know about a woman, but possibly more. More on what happened. Yeah, whatever they took, they were able to sell off. and get money for it. What did they take? Knight of Wands. Yeah, this happened fast. It's like they went in. Well, everything happened so fast. Like while one was dealing with her, the other one was potentially going around and looking for things of value. What? Were things stolen? And it doesn't even have to be like monetary, even though that's what I get. It could have been like just information that is good for them to know. It's like they forced it out of her. Okay, what happened after one was using force while the other one was gathering shit? What happened? Okay, they watched, waited together. It was two people. Could be a man and a woman. And this is the second card of Leo, so I do strongly get like force was used and possibly a Leo involved. That's August energy. Yeah. Two people work together. They could have been in an actual relationship. So, King of Cups energy. This is like your creative in the group. Like your philosopher, your professor, your artist, musician. Wasn't she tied? Yeah. Oh. She was tied to somebody. Could have been a musician, somebody that was like hired by the hospital where she would have a part of her job was to have musicians and music played at hospitals. And I do get that this man, and I don't know if it's the abductor, but somebody tied to the group that came after her is possibly a musician or was in that world, like knew of her from that space when she was in that leadership position. Yeah, they're not, this person isn't doing well. They're not sleeping well at night, that's for sure. More on what else happened after they did what they did and they left. Watched, waited, together. This could have been, the authorities could have actually already talked to this King of Cups character. I believe he knows more. The authorities need to go back through the list of people that they have contacted, specifically those that have worked with her in the hospital setting and the music side of things. Yeah, this person is severely burdened by what they did, by what this couple did. It's like mastermind and then the couple that actually did the work, because it was two people. It doesn't have to be a man and a woman, although I am getting that energy. So is this something that just got out of control? Like she was targeted for her money and then it turned into something completely different. It is somebody from the past, from her past. They just didn't see things clearly at all. Tell us more about these ransom notes, the two ransom notes. Were they written by the same person? And if so, were they directly involved in the abduction? Ransom notes. Tell us about it. Boat. More. I get separate. Boat and then desert. No, I get two different locations. They're two different people. They couldn't be further apart from one another. Because keep in mind, the guy in the beginning, the masked and armed man, he's on the run, right? So he could be the one in the boat, like hightailed it overseas. And then we got somebody who I believe is still in the location because this happened in Tucson. Tucson's kind of hot. Little desert-like, so these are two different people that wrote the ransom notes. Were they tied? Did they specifically do the abduction? I don't get that the people that wrote the ransom notes were the ones actually involved in the abduction. See what I'm saying? This is a wider, group of people that all work together. It's like they recruited more people as time went on. More about the 2 ransom notes and how these people are tied or what. Bitch, listen. Sometimes the truth hurts, but you need to listen. The advice is coming from a place of good. Guides are telling you something. The leak. Someone or something is draining the energy you need for what is actually important in your life. No, I get that these 2 people, the ones that wrote the ransom note, they were just the leaks. They were just the ransom note writers. I don't get that they were actually the ones that did the abduction. Those are different people. I want to get what piece of evidence is actually going to solve this. I'm going to go ahead and say murder, because had they not broken in and scared the ever-living shit out of her, she would not have passed. So what piece of evidence is actually going to break this case wide open? Is it the digital evidence? Is it the vehicle? Is it the DNA or the communication, the financial transaction, the witness, the relationship, the location, or surveillance? Or is it something investigators haven't publicly discussed yet? What is actually going to break this case wide open? Angels and ancestors tell us exactly. Didn't I say the government in the beginning? And media. What is going to break this case wide open? The fear that they have there, perhaps around the hidden network. Churches. Churches are a really great way to be a cover-up, although I don't feel as though this was super oriented around Nancy's church. What else is going to break this wide open? Contract? Paperwork? Perhaps a contractor within the government? Tied to Bitcoin? Healing, recovery, alignment. That's what will bring healing to this. Is the contract, the paperwork, more. What's going to break this wide open? Escape, run away. Might give more information into the person that's on the run. You might be able to find the masked and armed person by way of possibly a governmental contractor. A secret trip, helicopters, fraud, cybercrime. It's the digital evidence that'll break it open. Maybe you can trace it back to IP addresses, those that hacked. I do largely get her TV, like listening devices, if she had like an Alexa or something like that. And possibly, those tied to her that have fraud charges, tied to her by way of the work that she used to do, specifically hospitals, music. Okay, never mind. Medical staff. Caregiver? Did she have a caregiver? That would make sense. They're so closely tied to their patients, right? That's financial abuse, elder abuse right there. Or, you know, that person could have just been the handler who's like, oh my God, this woman has a shit ton of money that she's sitting on. This is what she used to do. You know, there's a lot of eyes on her. We could get a lot of attention for this. We can just come in. I mean, she's an easy target. We can just come in and steal this shit from her if she knows her passwords or whatever. And I don't believe in the moment she was able to give them the information that they were looking for. And so then, you know, she ended up having, I don't know if they hit her or what. Well, they must have, because there was blood found, her blood found. That would also make sense as to why they're not finding a whole lot of evidence inside the home of other people's fingerprints. It would just be Nancy's, her family, and then if she did have a caregiver. But if not, then looking at the medical staff and fraud charges there. Burial. And so it's definitely relationship, financial transaction, and digital evidence. Can you give us any information as to where she actually is right now? Like where her body is so her family can lay her to rest? I mean, that would be great for them. Timeline issues. There might have been too much time that's gone by. What would create timeline issues in discovering her body? I mean, just being out in the elements, you know, Tucson, I don't know if they take her to a desert and they just like, you know, let nature do its thing. More. She would be very badly decomposed, but that's not the point. God, a higher power. Well, she is with God, we know that. Can you tell us exactly, like Spirit, can you tell us exactly where they might be able to find her body? Where she is? Treason. Follow the DNA. Well, if you find the person tied to the medical staff or the people that she used to work with in the past, there is a DNA trail somewhere, like in the car that she would have been put in, you will find DNA evidence in that car. Hands tied, kidnapped, con man. Yeah, the person that actually abducted her was a stranger. She didn't know them. But the overarching story is tied to her past and career. They knew of her, worked with her, or at least knew of her when she was in leadership. Could have even taken care of her in the hospital. Where is her body? That's what I want to know. Maybe they even wanted to get into private medical records for some reason. Where is her body? But also, look, I needed to have taken a closer look at this. Doesn't that look like desert? Dirt? Hot? She's covered? I do get like out in the open though. I don't necessarily get like they took the time to actually bury her, you know? Like cover her up. And also, did they have, I know they don't have a body, but did they have a funeral for Nancy? Probably not, because they still think that she's alive, or they're still keeping hope, as any normal family would, until they get evidence that that's not the case anymore. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and it's just what I'm feeling. If you guys were to have a funeral, because I do believe that she is no longer with us, pay very close attention to who comes to the funeral. That could be the way to get a little bit closer to the people. I know the funeral would be huge, but if you can do it in a way where like it's limited, looking into those that show up to the funeral. I don't get it would be the person that actually did it, but I would get that there is additional information by way of the people that come there. Specifically, I'm looking at the caregiver medical staff because it's right next to burial. Can you tell us anything about where Nancy is so that their family can find her? They might not even know. If multiple different people were involved, then that information could have just been left unspoken about. I'm not trying to be funny at all by pulling these ransom notes, but I like to pull them only because there's a message in here that somehow ties to this reading. And so it could give us indications as to something else not covered. So I want to pull a couple of these. And don't think that I'm trying to make light of this situation by way of what these cards say, because this is a card game. But I use it in my tarot readings to give reference to the message in a different sort of way. Any sign synchronicity is something pivotal that we may have missed here. Write an advertisement for trendy adult diapers. So obviously we know that she was older. Adult diapers. Did she wear adult diapers? Describe the weirdest dream you've ever had. I bet this feels like a weird nightmare, not a dream. Yeah, it's just very strange. This whole thing is very strange. Leave a note in a time capsule that will be opened in 150 years. Well, yeah, those are the ransom notes. The handwriting analysis. Have they tested the papers for DNA that the messages were written on? Write a new Bible verse. Somehow the Bible, yeah, church. But verses too, that's music again. Possibly somebody in Christian music? That could get you a step closer to finding out more information, especially if the police have questioned somebody already tied to music or her church community, or, the medical staff that was employed to sing or play music. And I do get it could be associates or, acquaintances of somebody that did get hired for to play at the hospital at one point in time. Who knows? It could have been a very large group of people where it was you got people in the church group that are aware of certain things, people from her past that are aware of certain things, people in leadership positions too, obviously, with government and deep state. Can you tell us exactly where they should be looking for DNA inside the home? The card is lover. I don't know, maybe where her late husband, where he would have worked from, so the office, or if he had his own room or study or something like that. Might want to look there. Servant, kitchen. Yeah, young woman. There was definitely a woman involved somehow, and I believe it was the partner of this fucking one of the abductors or the armed man. I believe it was the armed man. Room. This is typically living room, family room, study, den. So look there. You might get DNA evidence of another woman outside of Nancy. And that woman would be the partner of the masked armed man that we saw on camera. Well, I hope this was helpful. I do these readings because I want it to help the investigation. I know it's hard when you do tarot readings and oracle readings on stuff like this, because you have to look into the messages deeper than just face value. When horseshoe pops out, typically that's a sign of good luck. But in this case, I get gambling and horses. So that's why I am here as the messenger to try to interpret this information in a different way. I'm not making it up. It's what comes to me and what is channeled to me. So I want that to be very clear here, that it's not clear and concise because it's never going to be. Neither is this story. So I do hope this was helpful. I'm curious to see if this uncovers anything additional that maybe authorities had an inkling about, but just weren't, didn't have much information other than their inkling to go off of. I hope this is added validation, because I know the family at this point would just be, they just want closure and they just want answers. So I'm sure that they're at a point where they're willing to listen to anything and everything that might give way to additional information. So I hope this was helpful, and I love you guys, and I'll be back for another one.